Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
I feel like Tizo, I'm back on that bullshit. If he talk reckless, then empty the full clip. I don't sip no lean and I don't pop no bars. Shorty, she on me, she think I'm a star. I'm chasing this money, I really can't stop. All these bitches won't suck on my cock. If she cannot pay me, I don't want the top. Frosty, he blowing, he cannot be stopped.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to today's video, and today I am here with River again.
Hi.
We just did the forfeit hockey 1v1. It's really good. It took me a long time to edit. If you want to watch it, link in the description, along with the original video, since we are reacting to Mr. Nightmare's 4 scary stories where dogs saved the day. I think I seen one of this a while ago, but I think it's a new one. There's no part 2, but there's also no re-upload, so I don't know if I've heard these stories before. If I have, I'll suck it up, and River, you can get made into the shit out of River too. But
yeah,
let's go.
Like say
reacting with 2 people is a lot better because you have the connection. Right?
Yeah.
See, how you doing? Hey, fuck off. Let's get into it. Shit.
Oh,
there we go.
I find the music makes it scary, like the pictures.
And is your volume all the way up?
No.
Make sure that's all the way up.
I live in Dorset, Vermont. It's a very secluded, mountainous place. There's lots of trails on the mountain that I like to walk or jog down commonly.
Watch him. He's
In
gonna be
fact,
doing
I'm
that
able
at
to
night.
cut through the woods in my yard to get to a trail that I walk and run down all the time.
I usually walk through there at night. The creepos don't look for that long though.
Yeah.
They just have enough time to beat their dick, smell my dick, and then fucking leave.
Yeah.
One day after getting home from work, I changed out of my work clothes and into my running clothes. By 6:45, I was ready to get on the trail.
Do that fucking night.
On this particular day, I took along my coonhound, Murphy. We did 5 minutes of walking. Then we started with a slow jog. Murphy is always a joy to walk because she doesn't pull. She always just stays calm at my side. The trail is wide enough for her to always stay by my side, maintaining my
Why would you
speed.
name a girl dog Murphy?
I was always looking up when I ran, which is why I didn't notice that Murphy stopped in her tracks until I felt the leash pull her neck, at which point I stopped and looked back at her to see what was wrong. She was looking behind us, and her ears did that little bouncing thing that hound dogs' ears do when they hear something. I mean, we were in the middle of the forest, so there was any number of things she could have heard. Anything from a deer to a squirrel to another person on the trail. I tried to pull her forward to continue our run, but she seemed persistent and reluctant to move forward. I played along for a few moments to let her see that she was curious over nothing. But it wasn't nothing, because I finally saw what she was looking at. There was a man back down the trail in the direction we came from. He was clearly not hiding the fact that he was looking at Murphy and I. I waved at him to try and be friendly, and then looked down at Murphy as I pulled her and told her to come. She finally budged and started running by my side again, not without looking back twice at the man. It's happened before. People on these small trails would commonly wait for me to move ahead so they could avoid passing the dog. Usually they'd be out earlier in the day though. At this point it was on the darker side, and usually there wouldn't be other people out. I also didn't notice if the man waved back or not because I looked down at Murphy after waving. But at that moment, I still thought everything was normal. That is until maybe a minute later, when Murphy stopped me again. This time she looked ahead of us and started barking. I saw who she was looking at right away this time. It was another man walking slowly towards us. I waved to him too, but he didn't wave back. I was standing still, holding Murphy close, expecting the man to eventually pass me. But the closer he got, the slower he went. When he got within hearing range, I told him that Murphy's friendly and that he could pass. Now here's when I knew something was up. After I said this, the man maintained eye contact with me, keeping his straight face as he very slowly continued approaching us. Then I noticed Murphy turn around and start barking in the other direction, behind us. I turned and almost had a heart attack when I saw that man from earlier, maybe 5 feet away from us, slowly approaching as well. I knew now something bad was about to go down. There were only a few seconds between that moment and the moment I felt 2 arms reach around me from behind. Then, the first man I saw earlier started full-on charging me. Murphy's barks turned to aggressive growling and rabid dog-like barks. Then, one of the men screamed as apparently Murphy bit him in the leg and wouldn't let go. This forced the man to release his grip on me, giving me a chance to tackle the other man to the ground. It took a little force to get Murphy to release her grip from the man's leg, but when she did, we ran back down the trail. The man who I tackled didn't try fighting back after his friend got bitten. I think he realized they were outmatched at that point. But I was still not sticking around to find out what their intentions were.
Especially after I put my dick in his mouth.
We got back to the house in 5 minutes, only because we sprinted back.
Want to do some weird shit?
I checked Murphy to make sure she wasn't hurt or wounded at all by the man she bit. She was fine. I couldn't be more grateful for her. She's still alive and well. She's 9 years old. I still see it as a blessing in disguise that one of the few times I decided to take Murphy along with me was the same night I ran into those two men in the forest.
Might as well fucking bring Murphy on every trip, bro.
Yeah. I don't know what he does for a job.
I don't know. Something.
Take a moment to imagine a bright blue sky stretching off into the distance.
No, I don't want to do that. Go fuck yourself.
My pit bull Callie sleeps in my room with me.
Closet.
I have a loft bedroom, meaning it's a higher level in the house than the rest of the rooms. My room also has a very large closet elevated off the ground. I keep a little stepping stool to get into it. It's mainly just a bunch of childhood toys stored
What kind
there,
of person goes like, yeah, here, we're interior decorating this house. Let's put a closet like right here, but let's like make the stepping stool like right there. That way he has to do a little hippie hop to get up in his closet.
Oh, it's like that.
That's a smart idea.
It's like that video where the fucking girl stays in that guy's house for months, like that homeless girl.
Oh
in
yeah,
fucking
up in a little cubby by the
pisses in the
attic.
sink.
One night, I woke up to growling. I sat up and saw Callie standing in the middle of the room. She was looking up at the closet. Needless to say, as a 14-year-old, that scared the shit out of me to even imagine what she could have been growling at.
Oh, he's 14 at the time.
I called her up to my bed so I could pet her and calm her down. She licked her lips and stopped growling, now looking at me.
Oh, yeah, you got that
I turned to give another look at the closet door in the dark.
Okay, I'll stop growling.
She stopped growling now, though, so I figured it was just her doggy imagination running wild. I went back to sleep pretty easily,
Dogs don't have
now with Callie in
imaginations,
the
they
bed
have
with
facts.
me. I woke up again, God knows how many hours later, now to Callie's barking. She was in the center of the room again, looking up at the closet. I told her to shut up, and after she looked at me in silence, I heard a jar of Legos spill inside the closet. Callie started going crazy now, barking, trying to jump up the stepladder, clawing at the wall. I heard my bedroom door open, and my dad came up the stairs screaming, "What the hell is going on?" I told him to check the closet, there's someone in there. He ran past Callie, up the stepladder, and pulled the door open. The second he opened that door, someone dressed in jeans, a black pullover hoodie, and black beanie pushed my dad off the step stool, causing him to fall on his back. The man in the black hoodie then took off, leaving my room down the stairs. However, Callie took off after him.
Guaranteed he was just trying to
I heard the
sleep
two
there.
of them
He's a
rushing down
hobo.
the stairs, but it sounded like Callie caught him because the man let out a scream of pain. My dad and I went down to the living room to see Callie with her teeth sunk into the man's arm.
Yeah.
Blood was spilled all over the carpet. Apparently, Callie bit the man in the leg and the arm. My dad got Callie off of him and told me to take her back to my room while he called the cops. The man was moaning in pain up until the cops calmly entered the house, looked down at the man, and they picked him up together. They brought him outside, where an ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. He was taken away in the ambulance. The next few days, my dad spent talking to lawyers and whatnot in order to sue the man for breaking and entering. He ended up winning the case, obviously. He never told me how much money he got, but he sure did make it known just how much Callie saved the day for our family.
Oh yeah, go Callie. The dog's bitten him. He goes, "Oh, your dog bit me." Yeah, bitch, I'm gonna hurt you too. I'm gonna bite you too, bitch. Fucking ads.
beautiful baby car.
Yes, boss? Reporting for duty!
Get the fucking out.
I'm gonna bite you too, bitch. Your dog bit me. I'm gonna bite you too.
Oh, it's in the winter.
The first dog I ever got was back in 1992, when I was 10 years old. My parents finally agreed to let me get my German Shepherd, my lifelong favorite dog. Only thing, they made me walk him twice a day as the one condition to owning him, once in the afternoon and once at night. His name was Calvin.
Do it in the morning and afternoon, dumbass.
This happened on a snowy December night. I begged my dad to let me just let Calvin in the yard, but he insisted I walk him. He always did, and walking him twice a day quickly became a huge chore. I threw on my snow boots, sweatshirt, and then my jacket over that, and finally my snow hat. I was ready for the cold snowstorm.
You
We
stopped to
set
walk
out
the
into
dog
the
in a
neighborhood
snowstorm?
streets,
Oh,
Calvin
jeez.
pulling ahead as usual. There were no cars on the road at all on this night.
No
There was
shit,
simply way too much snow.
It's
We
traffic.
walked down the edge of the neighborhood by the woods. I remember wanting to see if the roads had been plowed anywhere yet. We came to an intersection between two very quiet roads by the woods at the edge of the neighborhood. That's where I ran into him. I heard the sound of footsteps crushing the snow behind me. Calvin turned first and barked a couple times. It was a man bundled up in snow gear. He had a scarf covering half his face,
And a
so
pipe in his
all I
mouth
could really
filled with
see
crack.
were his eyes.
Frosty the
But I
fucking
could still
snowman.
tell
What
he
are you
was
saying?
on the older side, 40
Frosty the
plus.
fucking crackhead.
Oh.
His voice
Cocoa
was
and a
muffled
pipe.
through his scarf as he called to me in a friendly voice. Then he did something unexpected. He picked up some snow, patted it into a snowball, and seemingly playfully threw it at me. I dodged it, now not knowing how to react.
He's a pedo.
He came closer and started to pet Calvin. I was pretty uncomfortable, to be honest.
Did he say
The man
anything?
stood back up after petting Calvin,
Yeah.
then put his shoulder on me and said I shouldn't be alone out here on a night like this.
Pedo, motherfucker.
I think I remember telling him I wasn't. I was with my dog.
Yeah.
There were some more words exchanged.
I wasn't.
I don't remember what, but I do remember eventually walking.
I would have tried to scare him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been like, he would have been like, you shouldn't be alone like this. And he goes, yeah, I have my dog. And then he goes, yeah, but your dog, like, you know, just like not the dog, like it's someone else for protection. I mean, my dog's trained. He went to school for a month. He knows how to bite a bitch if he tries to touch me. So get your fucking hand off my shoulder before I rape you in the ass with my dog.
I put his shoulder on him, not his hand.
Yeah, he comes up to you. You shouldn't be alone like under that like this, because 90% of the rape starts with a hand on the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. You got loose clothes on because I'm ready to fuck.
He's like,
Walking away
yeah.
from that man without saying bye. Even though I didn't look back, Calvin kept looking back, and I slightly heard footsteps in the snow behind me again.
I'd run.
So I knew he was following me.
Snowball's gonna nail him in the back of the head.
I
But
figured he would.
Wait, was that? There's legit a fucking guy at, like, around here. I don't know if I should say this, but there's a kid in my school, his dad's, like, fucking pedo, and he keeps, like, going to court, and he had a whole bus full of fucking child porn, and he's not allowed to have internet access, but he goes and sits outside fucking needs and stares at all on the internet when he's not allowed, and he watches all the kids at our school. Just fuck. It's so weird.
Was following me home, which is why I was caught off guard when I heard the footsteps behind us increase in speed and intensity, causing Calvin to turn and start barking. The man grabbed me with one arm and covered my mouth with his other arm.
Fuck
I
off.
think Calvin started biting him, but he was wearing so many layers that he was able to ignore the pain, but only for so long. The man finally let go of his grip on me and aimed his attention at Calvin by kicking at him over and over. Eventually, the man gave up and took off for the woods.
oh, touch my dog! I would
Calvin
have fucking
pulled
hit him.
so hard after him, his leash snapped off the
Fucking
collar,
well, my dog
and
would've
off
killed
Calvin
him. Two
dashed,
pickles.
disappearing into the woods. I heard his barks
Alright,
fade away
fuck
into
off.
the darkness as I
shit.
screamed his name over
I
and
wouldn't
over.
care how young. Shit. I wouldn't care how young I was. I was like 10 years old. Some old guy comes up, puts his hand on my mouth, and then the dog bites him, and he starts kicking at my dog. I'm punching him in the balls.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Like,
saying.
that's what I
Yeah,
said. I
when
said
the-
you should never punch a guy in the nuts unless he's raping you, first of all. Like, unless he's fucking raping you or trying to beat the shit out of you, and you don't know who he is. That's the only time you should punch a guy in the nuts. So I would have punched him in the fucking nuts. I would have punched him in the nuts, got him on the ground, then I would just go to punch him out of his face. And then after I knocked him out, I would have pulled up his pant leg and be like, here you go, Calvin. Get a nice clean bite on that fucking meaty bone.
He tried to rape me. I'd pull his pants down and rape him.
This has got dark.
Yeah.
I returned home crying, telling my parents that Calvin was chasing after some man and that he was gone. I stayed up all night hoping he would return home. He never did.
Who, the dog?
The dog, yeah.
What, you let the
Calvin was
fucking
my
dog?
first dog, and losing him was my first real heartbreak. I like to think he was found and brought to a shelter somewhere, because I wholeheartedly believe that dog saved my life.
But if the guy raped the dog.
Probably the weirdest. The dog, after the guy...
get married
For
to
fuck's
my
sake.
son.
What movie is this?
I don't know, some movie.
What is that?
What he did, the guy, he went and after Calvin bit at him and he kicked him and he tried and he goes, you know, fuck this. He got loose and he started running into the woods. Calvin pushed and his chain broke or his leash broke and then he chased him into the woods and lost him.
Oh.
I think he just went to go fucking attack the man. He probably killed the man and ate him, joined a wolf pack. Or he's dead, or he's in a shelter.
I
He's
live on a
found.
farm in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Uh-oh.
It's just my
It's gonna be
wife
in
and
the
our
wheat
infant
field.
son living there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and of course my
Cornfield.
Rottweiler, Jesse. We have Jesse sleep outside in his doggy house
Why
from
do
the
they have all
months
these
of May
tough
to
dogs?
October.
Oh no.
It serves as an extra form of protection and intimidation to potential burglars, but also allows for him to do his business freely without having to wake one of us up. Jesse always has a mount attached to his collar that connects to the doggy house so that he can't run away or get lost. Very seldom at night we hear Jesse barking, and given that he's a guard dog, he's trained to bark at suspicious people, so I always go out and check when we hear him barking. But again, it's very, very seldom. I'm gonna skip the fluff and get right to the night that my wife and I woke up at like 1:30 a.m. to Jesse's barks outside. I told my wife, who was also sitting up with me, to wait in the bed. I'll go have a look. I slipped on my shoes and went outside in my robe. Jesse took notice to me for a second, but resumed barking in the direction of our crops. I had to go back inside for a flashlight and Jesse's leash,
Don't be an
because I
animal.
planned on going in the crops with him. After clipping Jesse's leash onto his
Gonna be a
collar,
gang, you
he knew
guys.
right away
Watch
to
it.
take a lead. He led me into the crops. I had the
Fucking
flashlight
ball comes
on.
up
Given the
right now.
basic
You know what a
nature of the
fucking bitch
cornfield,
was?
I didn't really see much in
I've
front of
seen
me
a lot of
besides
his
crumbs in my
videos. It's
face,
gonna be a gang,
regardless
guys.
of the light.
Really?
Jesse stopped barking, but he was still pulling me through the crops, as if he knew exactly where he was going. Then, out of nowhere, he stopped sniffing and just stopped. He looked up, but I didn't know if he heard something, if he was looking at something, or if he was just lost. The two of us stood in silence right there for a little bit. I heard crops in the near distance being brushed around suddenly.
Fuck up that.
Jesse's head was all over the place. He was looking left, then right, then left again, as if he were hearing sounds coming from everywhere. He started barking and pulling again, but this time I yanked him back to stay put. I swallowed and took a deep breath before calling out into the night that this was a private property and anyone caught trespassing would be brought to
Swallow
jail.
and take a deep breath.
It took more bravery calling that out than you may think. And of course, I was going to yell out a threat like that. What else could I say? The situation felt so surreal.
Well,
And
you
then-
say, when you yell someone to be like, yo, like, this is a private property, so you're not allowed to be over here, so like get out, or something like that. You add a little bitch at the end of it, like, bitch, fuck out my face, like that. It'll intimidate him more, most
Cardi
likely.
B.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn, that must
It
be
was the
some big
scream
ass
of a woman, a distressed, manic, deranged kind of scream. Jesse started pulling in the direction of the screams. But the more we ran, the further the screams seemed to get, until they completely stopped. Then Jesse once again stopped running and started looking around in different directions.
Oh, it's a guy trying to
Suddenly, there
kidnap
was
a
the
girl.
sound of someone zooming past us, rushing through the crops. In fact, they were so close I could see some of the crops maybe 5 feet from my face being brushed aside.
How are you kidnapping girls?
It's either a
This time,
crazy
I let
girl or a
Jesse
girl
off the leash.
getting
I
kidnapped.
told them to go, catch them. Jesse disappeared in seconds. I heard his barks, though.
Oh, fuck
He
the
was
lights
getting
moving.
further away with every passing second, until I was sitting in the middle of the crops alone, shaking in fear. I was so scared, I didn't even want to move in fear of making noise and giving away my position. I was as scared as a young child. Then, the most horrific thing to ever happen to me happened. A couple crops were brushed aside behind me, and something grabbed my right shoulder.
Fuck.
I don't mean a friendly, light tap on the shoulder. I mean something grabbed my shoulder tight and squeezed to the point of it hurting. I screamed, and without looking back, ran in the direction I was 90% sure led back to the house. On my way back, I could hear Jesse's barks in the far distance. I wasn't about to go looking for him, though. I thanked God when I saw the roof of my house come into view in the distance, and I finally reached the edge of the cornfield onto the back lawn.
How did the dog
I
save
passed the big
save
oak
his
tree in
life?
the yard and Jesse's doghouse and went straight through the back door. I checked every door and every window to make sure they were locked. I told my wife as little as I could to prevent a freakout. But I did tell her there was someone, maybe even more than one person in the crops. We called the sheriff's office and waited up for a while, making sure no one came to either door,
Trying to find
and
the
in
dog
hopes
for
that
the
Jesse
person.
would come back. And thank our lucky stars, he did. When a deputy finally pulled up the dirt road to our farm an hour later, he found Jesse sitting on the back deck of the house. There wasn't much the deputy could do other than take down my
How did
description
the
of what
dog
happened.
help?
He said it himself. He wasn't about to go searching around that
Exactly.
cornfield. We let Jesse sleep inside for the next few nights for his own safety. And after almost a week of uneventfulness, things went back to normal. There hasn't been a similar incident since.
The dog didn't help. He still got grabbed on the shoulder as the dog was running away.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah, that one didn't
Well, it's
make
probably
sense.
just for, like, content.
I guess, yeah.
Like-
Make longer video, more money.
Yeah.
But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want to subscribe to River, top link in the description. Below that will be our last video. Below that will be the original video. Peace.
One, then comes the 2 to the 3 to the 4. Everybody drunk out on the dance floor. Baby girl ass jiggle like she want more. Like she a groupie and I ain't even no tour.